Howdy folks, this is Dave Scott, a livestock specialist for the National Center for Appropriate Technology and the Acre program. I would like to demonstrate to you how easy it is to use the cow-calf extended calculator. To get to the calculator, go to the Acre site and hit Master Publication List. Once there, on the next page, hit Livestock and Pasture. Then find Grazing Calculator Extended Cow-Calf Pair IP458. Click on this and it will bring you the PDF that you can download. The calculator has been developed from a spreadsheet we have used for the last 10 years on our farm. Thanks to Brian Coldiron of NCAT for taking our humble spreadsheet and making it much more user-friendly. You can use this calculator to validate that your stocking rate is correct. The calculator also calculates dry matter production per acre per day. This can be helpful in the future for determining stocking rates with different classes and sizes of animals. In addition, the calculator will total dry matter production, out-pasture days, and any supplemental feeding. Lastly, and most importantly, the calculator will keep track of your pasture recovery period each time you exit from a field. Maintaining the recovery period is fundamental to a successful grazing season on irrigated pasture.
But wait, how do I know when my grass is fully recovered?
The grass on the next slide has fully recovered from the grazing event. Note the brown basal leaf. A plant with a brown tip on its basal leaf would also be considered to be fully recovered. The number of leaves on the stem is not diagnostic for full recovery. For example, a grass plant with only 2 leaves and a brown tipped or fully brown basal leaf would be fully recovered. Allowing grass to fully recover before the next grazing event is paramount to a successful grazing program. The plant shown next has not recovered from grazing. Note the absence of a brown basal leaf. Non-recovered plants pull up carbohydrates and other nutrients from root reserves. If non-recovered grasses are grazed, root mass declines and the health of the entire grass plant suffers. First, let's look how the calculator is designed. Because we have a potential for 35 to 45 paddocks, we have grouped 3 to 5 paddocks into individual fields. This makes the calculator less cumbersome to use and more efficient. The calculator also allows the use of up to 9 fields. You do not have to use all 9. The calculator is meant to be used on irrigated pastures where cow-calf pairs are rotated through each field in a sequential manner. For example, Field 2 is always grazed after Field 1, Field 3 after Field 2, etc. We have found that once we have our pastures well established, irrigation helps to achieve a relatively uniform amount of growth. From the standpoint of labor efficiency, it is best to move through the paddocks in a successive manner. The calculator also allows for the use of outpastures. An outpasture is used whenever your designed pasture recovery or rest period is not being met. Say for instance you have built into your grazing plan a pasture recovery period of 36 days. During your second pasture cycle, you find, through the use of your calculator, that you are trending to 32 days of pasture recovery. You can compensate by adding 4 days of an outpasture to your grazing cycle. Typically, you will only need 1 or 2 outpastures during the entire grazing season. Supplemental hay feeding can also be used to maintain your pasture recovery period. The calculator will total your outpasture days and your supplemental feeding for the grazing season. These two totals are useful to prepare for the upcoming grazing season. Let's enter some numbers. It is very important that you enter your stocking data daily. If you wait a week, oftentimes you can forget a detail and your calculator will produce inaccurate results. Likewise, when entering your average cow weight and field acres, be accurate. The accuracy of the entire calculator hinges on the true weight of your cows and the correct spatial measurement of your various fields. This last year, we turned our cows out on the 1st of May. Their average weight was 1,200 pounds, and we started the pasture season with 50 cow pairs. They finished that first field, which was composed of 2 paddocks, on May 5th, and that's where we went into field 2. Same class of cows, same number of cows. We put 4 days in the field 1 pasture, and that pasture was 7 acres. Notice that the calculator will calculate your dry matter intake per head, your dry matter intake per grazing unit, the dry matter yield per field, and most importantly, the dry matter intake per acre. It also keeps a running total of the grazing days. You started at 1 day here, 4 days in field 1, day 5 you started field 2. Let's fast forward now a couple grazing cycles and see what happens. Oh darn, I see that I've entered 500 instead of 50 cows here. It's really easy to correct for your mistakes though. We'll just click that to 50 and we have it all done. While we're here on this first page, let's just take a look at these notes right here. You can enter any notes that you want to as you go along in your pasture grazing. Here we've noted that the grass when we first went out into field 1 was 10 inches high and that our average calf weight was 325 pounds. Now we've completed 2 rounds around the pasture. It's taken us about 2 months to do it since we first started. And we're going to note here that our grazing days are coming down like this. We're at 67 on the grazing day. And look here what's happened to our dry matter per acre on the second round. We're start out okay. We're feeding our cows and calves all right. Then about midway through the cycle, we're starting to get less and less dry matter per acre. In this particular case, it was due to cold at the end of May and the beginning of June. We can't do anything about that, about the weather, but what we can do is supplement feed with hay or else create an out pasture. As we finished through field 9 on the second time around to go to field 1 on the third cycle, we noticed that our actual grazing days is 67 plus the 3 days that we were in field 9. That gives us 70 days of grazing. Let's look here where we were in field 1 when we started the second cycle. We're at 39 and a half grazing days. 39 and a half from 70 is about 31 days. That is 5 days less than our planned grazing recovery period. So we decide to make an out pasture. On 7/9, we're going to go for 5 days. And we'll just for ease of computation, we're going to say that out pasture 7 acres also. At the end of that out pasture, note also that this out pasture has been recorded by the calculator in out pasture days. At the end of that out pasture, we go back into field 1. with our cows, and it's a 4-day pasture and 7 acres. Notice now that our grazing cycle days, or the same as our pasture recovery period, is now 35.5 days. That's right in there with our planned pasture recovery period of 36 days. So our out pasture has enabled us to keep our pasture's recovery period constant, and by so doing, we can allow the grass to fully recover between grazings. And that's the most important thing you can do on your grazing. Let's go fast forward now to the end of the season and see what our calculator looks like. Here we are at the end of our grazing season now, and this is what your grazing calculator is going to look like. Here, our last day of the pasture was September 19th, and we have everything filled in here, and it's given us all kinds of information. Notice that after that second cycle through the pasture, our temperatures warmed up and things became very easy, and we've maintained a 36-day pasture rest period quite easily, except for maybe the very last day, and it's the end of the season, so we won't worry about that. Also notice, as we went by, we kept notes of what was happening out there. It's really helpful to record the height of the grass and whether the grass has fully recovered or not. Right here, when it was after about 3 or 4 weeks of cold weather, we've noted that it was not recovered. Then with our additional 5-day out pasture, we see again that it has recovered. At the very end of the pasture season, if you have the information, it's helpful to record your ending calf average weight and also your average daily gain. In this case, it worked out to be approximately 2.5 pounds per day. All this information is useful for future years to compare everything to this year. Significant events like weather, decreased irrigation water can also be recorded in the notes. At the bottom of the calculator, note that the total out pasture days are recorded and the total supplemental hay feeding is recorded. These two units can provide good information for your next pasture grazing season on what you have to prepare for. Always good to have at least a week to 10 days of out pasture ready, and also a little bit of hay in stock in case you need it. Moving over here, we see a table that totals the total dry matter per acre. Use this table to compare year-to-year differences and to troubleshoot any production problems you may encounter. This table can also be used to identify fields that require renovation or possible reseeding. Management changes will be reflected in the yields generated by these tables. The Cow-Calf Extended Calculator provides a simple and prompt means of analyzing your grazing program as you work your way through the grazing season. It will make management decisions much easier and give you confidence that you are on track with your grazing plan. I hope that this demonstration of the calculator helps out. If you have any questions or comments, please contact me on the Acre helpline at 1-800-346-9140. Happy grazing!